Big brands are taking over Etsy, and there's nothing you can do about it. Should you quit? Should you fight? Should you stop moving the camera around so much, Dave? Who do you think you are, Mr. Beast? Hi, I'm Dave, and this is The Hungry. And last week, I wrote an article on The Hungry newsletter about an Etsy shop that has over 36,000 sales and close to, if not over, $700,000 worth of revenue in the last 18 months. And that's conservative numbers. It's probably way more than that. The story was so amazing that I decided to share it with everybody in that newsletter because I thought maybe there's some nuggets here that we can find, that we can pull from, and turn our own shops into successful shops. I wrote what I believe is the best article I have ever written on a particular topic like this. And when I shared it with the company, they said no. They refused to be featured, so much so that they even called the article an invasion of privacy. What? They didn't want me using their name. They didn't want me talking about the owner. They didn't want me sharing any images of their shop at all. Now, for the record, everything I did, everything I researched was public knowledge. Everything was just a matter of like diving in a little bit and then pulling some information based on what was shown publicly. I didn't go into some kind of insidious ways to find dark, deep information. I didn't hack the system at all. I just showed what was there and I talked about it. But they didn't want that. But that's okay because I don't really want to talk about that company today because our problem is actually way bigger than that. After I got that pushback from the company, I decided to talk to my friend Lizzie, who has been successful on both Etsy and Amazon Handmade for several years. If I thought I was good at doing research, there's nobody better than Lizzie because once she gets the scent of something, man, she goes down into the deepest, darkest rabbit hole you could find to pull out information. And when I talked to her about it, I told her, like, there's only a couple things that I could think of that would cause a company to be this private. Like, why would they want to make sure that nobody knew about them? And the first reason is that they're just private. They're just a private company. Their people are private. They don't really want to share their successes. They don't really want to talk about it too much. They just want to make stuff and move on. And number two, they're into some serious nefarious shit. And after she read the article, Lizzie went into full-blown bloodhound mode, and within an hour, she came back with some information about stuff that I had no idea even existed, but now that I think about it, makes perfect sense. Now, some of the information that she found is very directly related to the company, and I'm not going to share it here. I just don't want to go down that road. I don't want to be the guy that shares a bunch of dirty secrets on a company. There was one thing she found on Reddit that was enlightening to me, and it's not related to this particular company, but related to the bigger symptom, the bigger problem, so to speak, of what's happening on Etsy. Go to the Etsy sellers subreddit and you look up large companies posing as small business, you'll find this article. I'll put it in the link in the description, but you'll see what I'm talking about. The original poster basically says that they've been busting their butts trying to compete with a whole bunch of new companies that have taken over Etsy over the year, only to find out that these are super large companies making several Etsy shops pretending to be small business. As you go through the comments, you'll see other people sharing similar stories. Like I know literal wholesale factories have started Etsy shops recently selling at bulk discount pricing and massive influx of drop shippers. This comment was interesting. It says, my favorite part is that one of these mom and pop shops, family-owned businesses, contacted us asking if we would be interested in acquisition, which is when we dug and found out that they're a much larger company. Have you ever gone to Target or Old Navy or some department store like that where they have like a whole bunch of different shirts that look trendy and cool, and some of them might be licensed to some particular brand, but most of them are just like, they're just trendy. They're just like trying to hop on whatever trend to get a little bit of money out of that. They always have somebody within the company that's in their merchandising department and says, hey, we need to hop on this trend, and so they'll get a bunch of shirts made. But Target and Old Navy don't make the shirts themselves. They actually push that out to another company that does all of that work for them. These smaller print companies will have a whole warehouse filled with all different types of printers. They'll have an in-house design team to design all of these things for all these larger companies. But not all of the designs that they make get bought up by the larger company. So what if one of these companies decided to sell all of the designs that Target and Old Navy didn't choose? They already have the designs. Why not sell them somewhere else? A marketplace like Etsy or Amazon Handmade is a perfect place to spin off a particular set of designs and sell them that way because the bigger company isn't paying attention to that stuff, and Amazon and Etsy aren't going to do their due diligence to find out if there's a non-compete or not. All it would take for them would be to come up with a new fictitious business name, maybe spin off a new LLC just so they have some sort of separation between them and it, and then boom, you're a new handmade company on Etsy selling shirt designs with a gigantic manufacturing business behind you. Now you may be thinking to yourself, that's not fair. Who's going to stop them? It would be difficult, if not impossible, to prove. And Etsy isn't going to stop them, especially if that brand is bringing in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of $1,000s worth of revenue. Etsy may perpetrate that they are in the handmade business, but they left those roots back a long time ago. So if it's not fair and there's nothing you could do about those companies, well, how do you even compete? The reality is you don't. You just don't have the resources, at least not at scale. But you can use their same game plan. Now you know that massive success is possible on Etsy, because if these companies can do it, well, then it's possible for other companies to do it well. You may take longer to get there, but it is possible. Go to Google and search up Best Etsy Sellers 2023. You're going to see a laundry list of companies that are absolutely killing it. And some of those are going to be the types of brands that we're talking about today, and some of them are going to be companies that have come up over a very long period of time. You go down deeper into the list of all these companies, you find the ones that are a little bit closer to you, and you figure out what it is that they are doing. When you see a shop that's killing it, you go in and you figure out, like, how do I reverse engineer what's happening right here? Like, what is it about this place that makes people want to keep coming to buy from them? It's going to take a little bit of research, but luckily for you, I've been doing that kind of research for you on all these different types of brands for a little bit now. Now I'm going to share with you 5 ways that you can start playing on their field. Number 1 is high quality work. This is subjective because we don't really know what's quality and what's not just based on whatever it is that we see in the shop. They may showcase really well, but you don't really know the quality that you're getting into until you actually have it in your hands. But high quality work is just as much about what you're portraying on there as it is what you're actually producing. So when you see a shop that looks cohesive, the designs are all similar or related, or they all feel like they came from the same group, the same person, when all of the images look the same, when all of the models look the same, when all of the mock-ups look relatively similar, when everything seems to have the same fit and finish throughout, that's when you know you're doing high quality work. Number 2 is branding. And that branding starts with the nameplates up at the top, the banners at the top of your shop, the logo, wherever it is that you decide to show up on a social media, any of these other places. The way that people perceive that brand is going to be based on whatever it is you're showing. And even the mock-up images, when you have a mock-up image, it looks like you. You go into an Etsy listing and there's multiple images to filter through to see what the product looks like. And then towards the end, there's other images in there that kind of branded to make people understand more information. It's not random. It's not all these different colors. It's not all these different typefaces. There's a fit and finish, again, to everything. And that goes beyond the walls of that shop. Number 3 goes beyond the walls of that shop because that's social media, because you obviously want to show up on social media the same way you do on the shop. And it's not just about taking some of those pictures from your shop and just putting it up on your Instagram. It's about showing up in a way that's authentic to you as the maker and finding people that are aligned with that. Or maybe it's going into other accounts that of people that like what you like, and then going in and engaging those people as if you have the intention of potentially bringing in new customers. And then you don't want to go in and be salesy, like, hey, I make good stuff, you should come over see my shop. You engage authentically, you bring them into the fold. Hopefully they go over, they find your Instagram account, which is obviously going to have a link. If you only have an Etsy shop, then okay, it brings you back to the Etsy shop, but maybe it goes back to your actual web shop or wherever it is you want to send them, but you maintain that continuity within your social media so that you can keep bringing people in. Keep bringing them in. Number 4 is newsletter. If you don't have a newsletter, then what are you doing? It's 2023, and if you're not using a newsletter for your business, you are failing. I know that sounds harsh, and I know you're thinking to yourself, like, I don't want to write a newsletter. I do so much already. If you were to stop operating on one social media outlet, I don't care which one, whatever one that isn't doing you so good, that doesn't bring in sales, if you were to stop doing that, just focus on your newsletter instead, you'll probably do better. Because the one thing that most people miss about working on a marketplace like Etsy is that a rando comes in and buys from you, then they go and they check out, you're never going to see them again. There's no way to get them back. So now you have to constantly look for the next person to come in and they're going to leave, and the next person come in and they're going to leave. But instead, if you were trying to do things to bring people back, make them go to your social media so that you have a link to your newsletter, or make them go to your newsletter directly through your shop, but you have that newsletter there so that you can continually go back to communicate to them often, regularly, anytime you want, as opposed to what Etsy does, which means you can't talk to them hardly like this. Why do you think their communication tool is so bad? They don't want you talking to their customers. And finally, number 5, advertising. And I know that a lot of people would be like, Etsy advertising suck. Okay, well, don't do Etsy ads. Start posting ads in places where people might actually find you. It might actually be interested in you, and not just like randomly find you because they happen to be looking for Halloween shirt or girl boss shirt. Bonus strategy, subscribe to the Hungry newsletter, because I talk about stuff like this this all the time, and I give it away for free. Now, that list may be daunting, but we're not here to do them all. I'm not saying, hey, go change everything about your shop in one day. You take one, you break it down, you figure it out, you learn more about it, and then you execute on whatever it is that you've learned. And that's where just-in-time learning comes in. Pick a thing, spend a few hours or more learning how to do that thing, and then take action on the things that you learn. Coincidentally, I happened to be on Skillshare the other day because I was doing some research on another deep dive that I'm going to be writing about very soon on a topic that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate. But when I was there, I can confidently say without any doubt whatsoever that there are plenty of courses on Skillshare for the things that we just talked about. Here's one on illustration. This one here is on branding, social media, newsletters, and advertising. Full disclosure, I have a couple of courses on Skillshare, not on these particular topics yet. And I'm also an affiliate, which means if you click that link in the description, not only will you be getting 1 month free to squeeze in as many courses as you can possibly get into that brain of yours, you'll also be supporting this channel. I glazed over this information quite a bit, which I plan on expanding on in the future, probably individual topics all the time. But if you have any questions about that, please feel free, go down to the comments and ask me all the questions you want. I'm happy to answer as many as I possibly can. Finally, it's important to understand that this is not just Etsy. It's on Amazon, it's on Saatchi, it's on Society6, it's on Redbubble, and if you want to know more about what I think people should do in those circumstances, then you're going to want to watch that video right there. Thanks very much, folks. I really appreciate you watching. I've been Dave, you've been awesome, and I will see you next time.